Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today, Austin and I are just going over one trade idea that we just actually came across. Austin brought this up to me just recently, and it's a very interesting chart that we wanted to share with you guys today. So, Austin, tell us what we're going over right now.
We're going over Volkswagen, or V-Waggy. And it's a really interesting chart, not only from just the structural point of view and kind of how the price action has found itself to play out over the past, few decades, but it's an interesting company that has a lot of potential with this electric vehicle space, this EV space. So from a fundamental standpoint, Volkswagen is very interesting to me right now, and from a technical standpoint, Volkswagen is very interesting to me right now. And I feel like as though this might have some hidden potential that not a lot of people are really aware of at the moment. So that's what we're going to go over today, at least from a technical standpoint. I don't have all the fundamental news and sources here on top of, ready to go, but definitely go do your own research on Volkswagen and, how they're going to be competing in the EV world, especially with Tesla. It's really, really compelling.
Yeah, so that was the main news that brought us to this, right? You heard something about how there was going to be a higher EV production than Tesla by 2023, by the start of 2023.
Well, they're going to be serious competition, right? I think everybody, they think of EV and they think of, Tesla, they think of Ford, they think of Neo, Workhorse, all these brands that we're familiar with. But in reality, Volkswagen, this company that has been around for quite some time, that everyone's very familiar with, that has also had its time, in financial markets with this, it's been squeezed before. Maybe we should start paying attention to Volkswagen in this space, because I think it's kind of going under the radar, so.
Yeah, something that I was just pulling up on my other screen here, it's worthy to note that Volkswagen itself actually owns many other car manufacturers, such as Audi, Seat, which is big in Europe, Skoda, which is big in Europe, Bentley, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Porsche, Ducati.
Oh, I didn't know that they owned Bugatti.
Yeah, they do. Scania and MAN.
Sense. Yeah, it makes sense. They own a lot of luxury car brands. But nonetheless, so we know that they do have a lot under their belt as far as a company. From a fundamental standpoint, I don't think the company Volkswagen is going to be going anywhere anytime soon. I think that they do have a somewhat bright future ahead of them, especially with all the innovation going on in electric vehicles right now. But, let's take a look at the chart, what we're really here to talk about, right? This is the real bread and butter of what we're going to be able to utilize and perhaps, make a nice trade off of, right? And this is a very macro trade. Keep that in mind. We are looking at a 1-week chart, so every candlestick that you see here represents 1 week of time. We're actually looking at, time going all the way back to 1996, right? Or 1995, which is before I was born. So well over 20 years, and there is some compelling data in the macro charts, and that's what we're going to be showing you today. And what I'm going to be focusing on right here, do you want me to just hop into it, Logan? Or
yeah, hop into the technicals.
Okay. All right, so I know that me and you kind of have, two different looks at how we would view this chart. Obviously, Volkswagen did, there we go. Let's make this line. There we go. Let's make that line so I can see it. Volkswagen did break out of this descending resistance that it's been battling for, the close to, over half a decade, right? And we broke out very, very aggressively, and Volkswagen ran all the way up to $48. However, this is not the line that is of concern to me. What I'm looking at is this line right here, and I'm just kind of viewing this from a structural support standpoint. And typically what happens when major macro resistance is broken is typically things will come down to it, and they'll retest it as support, confirm that as a platform, and get a nice bounce off of it. On top of that, there's other technicals that look quite good, such as the wave counts right here, right? It's very clear that we are in a clear 5-wave move, and we're in the process of a 4th wave right now. So we are expecting a 5th wave in a macro sense, right? However long that takes, nobody knows, but I do think it's over the horizon. But nonetheless, I do think Volkswagen has a lot of promise, as long as it can hold this level of around $27. The general range of $27, we may come back down to test it again, but, Volkswagen, if it can hold this as support and really get a nice bounce off of it with all that bullish fundamental news we talked about, with Volkswagen being a big player in this EV space, I do think that we could see some crazy numbers for Volkswagen, depending on what happens. I mean, look at Ford right now, right? Look at what Tesla's been doing.
Yeah.
Look at what all these EV brands have been doing, right? And then you have probably one of the biggest innovators in the space, Volkswagen, just being in a corrective wave for all of 2020, majority of 2021. Right? It really hasn't done much. So this thing, in my opinion, looks like it's ready to pop, and it might happen sooner than people think. But yes. Of course, this is purely speculation. I'm really just basing this mostly off of the technicals. I do think the technicals look quite good, and I believe that Logan Silver would agree with me. Obviously, our secondary indicators also indicate some good price action here. The weekly MACD looks primed and ready to go. Though curl doesn't mean anything, we do want to see a cross. I do believe once we see this MACD cross, it could be the indication to us that, hey, we're kind of stepping out of this corrective zone, and we're ready for takeoff. Yeah. So it looks quite good, and it also reminds me kind of Lucid Motors. The way, obviously, this was COVID right here, but the way that it capitulated and then just got bought up immediately, we see similar stuff go on in Lucid Motors. And I'll just and again, this is another EV brand. That's kind of why I'm bringing it up. Right? Maybe it's completely not related at all. But if we go look at Lucid, right, to a one-day chart, we could see that, it kind of it capitulated real quick before it went down. This wasn't COVID, but then we went up and got bought up very, very aggressively. We almost did the same thing similar here recently, a few days ago, in Lucid. But yeah,
just reminded me how good Lucid looks too.
Yeah, right. Lucid looks great. That's another one, guys. We could talk about Lucid if you want, but Volkswagen looks good, and it really just looks primed to make a big move to the upside. Another thing, we just observed the macro history of the chart. This thing is not like a to me, it's a very interesting equity because of how radically it moves, right? If you just look at the history of it, there's only been one time of relatively calmness, and that was this time really before COVID, kind of between 2015 and 2020. Right, Volkswagen was kind of calm, but all the other times that we see throughout the history of this equity being publicly traded, it's been all over the place, man. Up, down, right? It's been through the washer, right? It's been a roller coaster, and I something tells me that trend is going to continue, and I think we're going to be in for some more volatile action here in the coming year for Volkswagen. But I guess we'll have to see.
We will have to see, and I definitely agree with you that the technicals are really good. And, in terms of the fundamentals, while we don't have any, sources that we can say right now, it does make a lot of sense looking at the other car manufacturers in the space, like you said, and also the reported production numbers for this upcoming year. So those two factors combined do make me pretty bullish on Volkswagen, and I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this as well.
Absolutely. And I have a few other things I want to mention real quick, right? If we do a Fibonacci retracement from the bottom from the bottom here to our top, we can see that we're actually, right around our 0.382, so it does look quite nice. And, like I said, guys, this 5-wave move is looking pretty good here. This fifth wave, what could the price target be for this fifth wave? Well, assuming this is the bottom, which it may not be, I could see Volkswagen perhaps hitting prices upwards of, how funny, 69. Nice.
Could you also take the fib extension from wave 3?
We'll do that as well. Yeah, that would be a very very high price point. I'm uncertain if we'll reach that high, but yeah, $99.
Could you by any chance pull up the 127 too?
Yeah, we could do that as well. Yeah. Let's get rid of this, and let's go to our settings here, and let's add the 1.2.
We're gonna get a petition for Austin to start using the favorites bar, and look at that, 66 to 69. I think that's a very good price range to be looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can get behind that price range 100%. And let's go ahead and isolate those two zones. How about it?
There we are.
66 to 69. Perfect. Yeah. Yep. And this would be our zone. Let's highlight that. Beautiful. So this would be a definitely a price target to look out for Volkswagen. Between $66 and $69, I definitely can see that happening. And keep in mind, guys, that's
still not even an all-time high.
That's still not even an all-time high, right? And geez, the more I look at this, it almost looks like a wave 1.
That's exactly what I have it as. Yeah, that's what my chart is.
Right. So, depending on the future for Volkswagen, I just really like how it's coiling up right now. I do think this price target can be, easily, rather easily reached if things go in Volkswagen's way, and I definitely could see this happening pretty quickly. So
absolutely,
yeah, looks good. We'll keep it on the watch list again. To the people that are watching this, Volkswagen, this is not a overnight trade. Keep in mind, this is a weekly chart, right? So this trade, if you were to play this trade, a great way to play it would be with equity, right? Buying shares of Volkswagen. You could do some leaps with options. You could do some spreads. You could do a bunch of different things. But it's going to take time to kind of play out. And it wouldn't surprise me to see this go deep into 2023, if not into 2024. By the time we see this entire impulse wave play out,
unless it goes parabolic like 2007.
Yeah, I mean, unless we just go straight to the moon, you know, which I'm all for. Like, I'll ape into Volkswagen if that's what we're doing it, you know.
Absolutely.
But yeah. So it looks good. Another thing to keep your eye on. You know, not a lot of people have been talking about Volkswagen, so we figured that here on the Logan Silver Experience, we'd give you the gist on what's going on with Volkswagen. So
Absolutely awesome.
yeah.
Thank you so much for the trade idea.
Yeah. Alrighty, Logan, take it easy.
Take it easy.